Hi, this is Bennett Kelly, and welcome to One Story. Kevin Durant, last year's NBA Most Valuable Player, recently suffered a season-ending injury when he suffered a Jones fracture to his foot. A Jones fracture is a broken bone in the midsection of the fifth metatarsal of the foot at the base near the little toe. It can cause pain and swelling if not treated. It is named after Doctor Robert Jones when he wrote a paper describing the fracture in several patients, the first of which was him. He had injured himself when he slipped off the dance floor at a wedding, but thought it to be a tendon injury, and despite after repeated examination, the tendon remained intact. So finally he asked a colleague to take an x-ray of his foot, and the fracture was found. He used the x-ray, which is relatively new technology, to show his students the fracture, and then wrote about it. He noted that the fracture was not caused by direct trauma to the bone, as had always been written before, but by a cross-strain being applied to the bone. I myself had a Jones fracture in February 2008, a week after the New England Patriots' heartbreaking loss to the New York Giants in the Super Bowl, ending their quest for a perfect season. I jokingly told people that I injured myself kicking the TV after the loss. It happened while leaving a reception on a weeknight. I happened to step in a pothole and thought I had twisted my ankle. I came home and found my wife watching the Alfred Hitchcock classic, Rear Window. For the uninitiated, it is one of his best works and features Jimmy Stewart as a photojournalist who has broken his leg and is recuperating at home in a wheelchair. Kept company by his girlfriend, played by a stunning Grace Kelly, who becomes suspicious about activities of a neighbor viewed from Stewart's rear window. As we watched the movie, seeing Jimmy Stewart sitting in his wheelchair constantly reminded me about my own injury. But as I looked at my foot, it was not my ankle, but my foot that was swelling. And we continued to watch the movie, and then my wife went to bed, and I had some work to do. At about midnight, I started wondering about my foot, which had grown bigger. I then did what every doctor in America hates. I diagnosed myself via the internet. Alas, I found the story about Dr. Dance Fever himself and concluded I should probably seek medical attention. So at about 2 a.m., I decided to drive to a nearby hospital. Of course, at this point, getting my shoe on was somewhat difficult, and since it was my right foot, my aversion to using the brake pedal became even more acute. I got to the emergency room and informed the attendants that I had a Jones fracture, which triggered some polite chuckles. Then the doctor assured me I did not have a Jones fracture, but she would have it x-rayed nonetheless. The x-ray was taken, and then I waited for about 40 minutes when the doctor walked in. Looking only at her clipboard and all but turning away, she told me the results. I had a Jones fracture. I'm sorry, I said. I didn't quite catch that. You have a Jones fracture. Holy Fred Astaire, Batman, I was right. So how do you treat a Jones fracture? Well, if you're Dr. Jones, probably by drinking less at weddings. But in the area of sports, since it has a very high rate of recurrence, the preferred method is by surgery and inserting a screw to the foot to stabilize the area around the injury and minimize the amount of time required for mobilization. Since I was not an athlete, my doctor, who coincidentally had interned with the New England Patriots, decided simply on immobilization via walking a cast and crutches. They gave me pills for the pain, but little did I know how badly I would need them. For anyone who has skied, there is always that one beginner's mistake when you lean forward too far and start going downhill before you are ready. On crutches, it's when you lean forward too far and start bouncing down a staircase. In my case, it was at home, and fortunately, there was a door with a big knob right on the bottom of the stairs to catch my fall as the knob jammed into my ribs. For the next few days, I would wake up barely able to breathe in sharp pain, thankful for the pain pills from my other injury. There were other challenges as well. while speaking at a trade show in Las Vegas, I used one of those senior citizen scooters to get around, which turned out to be a brilliant stroke of luck, since it made me more memorable as I was the only one traveling around on such a scooter. Unfortunately, I became a little too memorable when sitting at the lunch table with the keynote speaker, Jason Calacanis, as he was giving a podcast interview. Someone bumped my scooter, causing my crutches to slip, and then hit the accelerator. This was probably not the best time to realize I had left the scooter on, and the next thing I heard was bam, as this riderless Bronco crashed into the table.
Everybody's okay. You guys may not know what just happened, but we had a wheelchair crash into the table. It was unbelievable. That was a first.
Exciting live interview factor.
Wow. If only that was on video. You guys don't even know what you missed.
As I recovered, I still had to overcome the great shame of how lame my injury was. I stepped in a frickin' pothole. How boring is that? And as I spoke at conferences, I invited people to make suggestions for a better story, and the response was most enthusiastic. I did get the usual skiing, slipping, etc., but there were a few that stood out, auditioning for Riverdance, or as a ranger in Afghanistan. I actually tried this one out, and it was shocking that people would think a 45-year-old lawyer was a ranger in his spare time. The best, however, was the most problematic. One gentleman said I should go beyond the simply skiing accident to claim that I was having sex while skiing. Given that my wife hates heights and cold, I paraphrased Dick Armey and explained that in such a circumstance, while I'm sure the last thing that I would hear as I lay in a pool of blood would be my wife saying, "How do I reload this thing?" While I wish Mr. Durant well, I do recall that I was discouraged from playing basketball as I recovered, first by my doctor, and then by those I played with. Thank you for listening to One Story. I'm Bennett Kelly.